This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
So it's, I want to say, 30-something years ago. Well, you can add it up. It's in the late 80s. And I meet at the State Fair a guy named Eugene Harnett. He was really happy and wiry, and he's at the State Fair at a booth, at the Republican Party booth, and I'm at University of Alaska Anchorage going to college, graduated from Bartlett. And while I'm there, he says, hey, get involved in the Republican Party. So I said, okay, sounds good. So then we go, and I brought my girlfriend at the time, my son Tim's mom. We start going to these events, and a little bit down the line, I meet a young lady, cool name, very, very smart, and she's like, hey, my name's Portia Babcock, and she says, I'm a legislative aide, and I'm active, and it's nice to see you active, and, you know, what's your major? Poli-sci. You should try to become a legislative aide, and I want you to meet my big brother, Tuckerman Babcock. And he is super smart. He went to Stellar. We grew up here. He'll tell you the story, hunting, fishing, all because of our parents. And you'll just really dig him, and maybe he can be a mentor. And I met Tuckerman, and was swooned by his intellect and prowess, and he really invigorated me, among others, like Portia, to get involved. And that's what I did. And by God, I was able to get on with the Legislative Information Office under Atlanta Decker, and Tuckerman was an aide, and then I was a legislative aide, and I worked alongside Tuckerman until he rose through the ranks, and then out of that into the corporate world. But Tuckerman Babcock, that's my story and how you and I met, and we've been friends ever since. And you have an announcement, my friend, and I couldn't be happier. I wish it was higher office, maybe someday, but right now the seat's available for you. And good morning. Welcome to the program. And please announce what seat you have filed for.
Well, good morning, Tom. Thank you very much for the introduction. And I filed this morning for election to the state Senate from the Kenai, Soldotna, Nikiski, Cooper Landing, Hope area, Sterling. And it's a new Senate seat D. And I'm very excited to get out and campaign and seek votes to get elected and to get down there and take a strong stand for smaller government, more freedom, and just get the government out of the way so our economy can boom and people can make their own decisions in their own lives. It's the same principle and philosophy that's motivated me for the last 40 years in politics.
Well, and I told the story of how we met, and what I remembered is your intellect and your business savvy and your government knowledge. And you're someone that really understands how the system federally, state, borough, city works. And you had an interest academically and then certainly with experience. But you've also worked utilities in the Mat-Su. You married Christy. Everybody loves Senator Lida Green, her daughter. And she, like her dad, in insurance, State Farm, my parents, my family, me, we all use your wife and adore her. And your kids, your grandkids, I see nothing but success with all of that combined, and your long resume, Chief of Staff for Gov, head of the party. You've done so much. Most recently, I saw that you wrote to somebody that you're retired. So you come out of retirement to work in the state Senate. Is the invigoration ultimately to be able to work with your peers and get the job done? Has that been an issue that you've seen people are not getting along, and maybe you could be a consensus builder?
Well, it's something I've always worked on, Tom. I've tried to encourage people to get involved in civic affairs, and that's really what I love doing, and seeing good people get involved in civic affairs, because for self-government in the Republic to work, you've got to have just average citizens coming forward and getting involved. We can't leave it to so-called professionals or just the bureaucrats and special interests. You have to have people who care about this republic and care about freedom for families and individuals actually get involved in politics. And it can be frustrating because, as we've watched the last couple of years, endless special sessions, deadlock, argument, bitterness, and it doesn't mean you don't have strong positions. It doesn't mean you don't advocate for the principles you believe in. But the state has to move forward. Government has to make decisions, and we need people there who have the ability to talk to people of all different stripes and beliefs. I mean, it's kind of an interesting curiosity, but I went to a very small school in Anchorage called Stellar Alternative School, and it was for self-motivated people. And I've always been a bit of a rebel, and it really suited me well to go to that self-motivated program. But one of my best friends in that school was Tom Begich. And Tom Begich, who's a different philosophy, he's a liberal Democrat, and he's in the state Senate right now, leader of the Democrats. And it's just that kind of personal relationship that I really pray and hope will be able to get our state moving forward.
You have traveled across Alaska with your dad, who is a mountaineer extraordinaire, and you've hunted, you've climbed, I know, various mountains. You have been all over the place, and then in your, as a chief of staff for a governor, as a spokesperson in the party, you've done so much. And then, of course, family, as I alluded to, with kids and grandkids and such. But you also have never served in an elected capacity. So no one could really target you and say, oh, he's a lifelong, sorry to Mark Begich, but someone might say, dude, you've been in forever. And he's not in now, right now, and he may be listening. So I love Mark. Hello, Mark. But someone could say that to him, or they could, like Kevin Meyer, your friend and mine, they might say, Lord, you've been in for 30 years. No one could say that to you, could they?
No, it's been a different. I've been an activist for freedom, liberty, and just the average American living their dream. And I have seen since high school that government is sometimes helpful, but most of the time it's an impediment. Most of the time it's a sluggish bureaucracy and that people who are involved in it try to do their best. It's just the nature of bureaucracy. And so I've just been this torchbearer for limited government and more freedom for the last 40 years. And I thought I was retired. Christy and I have 14 grandchildren. They're all 6 and under. And that is a wonderful focus and has been in my life. And so this is quite a sacrifice, but I'm happy to make it for the betterment of the state. And I don't intend to stay, in the legislature for a decade or decades. I just want to get in there, work with people, solve some of these pressing problems, get government on the right track, which means a smaller impact and footprint in our lives.
Sure. Well, in a state legislative, a Senate term is 4 years. So if you did a term or two, your point is that may be, you never know in life what happens, but that could be very solid in making a difference. And you understand the system. The one nice thing when former legislative experts and aides like yourself run, and you haven't been an aide for a long time, but you've worked in administration, you've worked with CASA, and you've worked in the judicial world, you've worked in the legislative, you've worked in the business world. Again, you've recreated. So when someone talks about hunting, fishing out in the forest, you've been there. You own a home. You have grandkids. Yet you're middle age. I think all those things resonate with someone. But a pesky detail is with the new line. And by the way, even redistricting, you have expertise in that. You weren't involved in this round, but at least you probably watch from afar and can say, yep, been there, done that. In this case, you have a new district where an incumbent has been pushed in. And so with Pete Micciche, I mean, is it his district completely, or is it a new line? Because I haven't looked at your Senate district that you're running in.
It's mostly a similar district down here on the Kenai, and the town of Seward has been moved in with Cordova and Kodiak. So yeah, and I don't know whether Senator Micciche in the end is going to be a candidate on June 1st. I wish him the best in accomplishing these goals of balanced budget and protecting the innocent from crime and getting the PFD properly funded and following the statute. And, he's working hard down there this session. We'll see if he can accomplish.
Sure.
He's been there 10
I hope
years.
He doesn't run. I mean, I support you, and pretty much everybody I know supports you. And when we got there was gossip abound that, hey, Tuckerman Babcock, this titan certainly in conservative and faith-based values may run for office. I was waiting with bated breath and excited. And when you announced today, and I figured you were just from the rumors over the last week, I hope that Pete Micciche, after his years in the oil industry and now his service in the Senate, I hope that he says, you know what, I'll pass the torch over like you will do in a term or two. And I hope that he's listening to that end and considers. Tuckerman, if you could stick with us, we have a very quick break, and then we're going to come back. And thank you. And then we're going to make a YouTube video of this, folks, so you can share it. And if you are on the Kenai Peninsula, you may be interested in this. You may be like, okay, there's the guy whose name I can't pronounce, and Pete's a nice guy. But and then there's Tuckerman with these credentials. How do I vote for Tuckerman? How do I support him? It's expensive. Maybe I will donate to him. And over the coming weeks, I'm sure in the next few days, Tuckerman's going to have a website and everything else, and he'll tell you how to do that. So stay with us right here on the Tom Anderson Show.
This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
We are back here on the Tom Anderson Show. Remember, TomAndersonShow.com. We are on in Alaska, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday, right here on KVNT, 1020 a.m. and 92.5 FM from Matsuda, Anchorage. And the Kiski, a little piece of Kenai Peninsula. With us, Tuckerman Babcock stays through the break. Thank you, Tuckerman. We're making a YouTube video of this. And, of course, hey, equal time. If any candidate in that Senate seat, that district wants to call in Pete or anybody, if he ends up running, he can call, and Tuckerman knows that. I'm free. FCC says you have to, and FEC says you have to open up to any candidate, and so everybody's welcome across the state to call in. I don't care if it's a Begich or a Shabaka or a Murkowski or Don Young, you can call in. Tuckerman's on today, though, and we were talking before the break about his candidacy and how many communities are in that large Senate district, and the fact that the lines are a little bit different, so you'll want to make sure online through the Division of Elections, once all the court system stuff settles on if you're in the district or not. But Tuckerman, before the break, we were talking about how to connect with you. So I know you have a website coming and you just launched, so that's going to be probably a day or two, and you'll have your Facebook, all those things coming. What's your message to people that may say, hey, I'm interested in helping? How can they help? And then let me guess, has your phone and email been off the hook all morning from people?
Oh, it has, and that's wonderful. It's a lot of support. We've already have a campaign director, Shania Johnson, a director of volunteers, Kathy Sturman. Christy Babcock's going to be the treasurer, Cindy Glassmaker, the deputy treasurer. A graduate student, Caleb Green, will be up in the summer to help, and it's going to be a great team of people, and it takes a great team of people. And in a couple of days, the website will be up at TuckermanBabcock.com, and that'll be a donate button, which is essential. These campaigns, to be able to communicate with people and to get yard signs and brochures and radio and Facebook and all of that, communication with people so they really know who I am, what motivates me, why I'm asking to serve, and that takes donations. And I appreciate the maximum donation, individual donation is $1,500, but $10 is welcome. And especially important to me are personal endorsements. I'm very humbled by the support that I've received so far, and it really lifts the spirit of any candidate, a personal endorsement, and there should be a direct ability to do that on the website. And I want to go back to what it was to move here in Alaska with my family in 1966, and I was very young. My father came up to climb mountains, and my name, Tuckerman, comes from the first mountain my father ever climbed, which was Tuckerman's Ravine on Mount Washington. And he is slowed down some. He's 83, and but he came up here. He climbed an alley first in 1967, and then several other times after that. He helped found the School of Mountaineering and Wilderness Survival. And part of my own life experience and why the stress or the difficulty involved in politics doesn't faze me particularly. He was a tough mentor as a father, and we had so many adventures, including being left when I was 12 on Mount Huascaran in Peru for 3 days while he went on and climbed to the top of it and came back, and I didn't know if he was ever going to come back. And it was long nights and alone on the mountain for 3 days, and that it doesn't get too much rougher than that. And So politics is something that I see as a civic duty, but it's not a burden. It's a pleasure to try to serve people. And any candidate out there or someone who's thinking about being a candidate, give me a call. I love encouraging people to get involved and participate. And there's a lot of issues on the table that need the people to be involved. And as frustrating as government can be, as slow as it can be, we have to make it work.
Full disclosure, I've been a friend, as I mentioned in the first segment, interviewing Tuckerman, with him for decades, and he knows that I'm very interested, my firm Optima, in helping in graphic design and web and other areas. So, if we have that fortune today, talking about that later, because I don't want to hide that from people, we would love to be part of your team. And I bet you're going to have a lot of door knocks from folks wanting to help. But it doesn't just take an ad agency, does it, or marketing? It takes people. Doesn't it take let's say a yard sign. If someone's listening that has friends on the Kenai Peninsula in your district, doesn't that make sense to say, hey, Joe Schmo, get a hold of Tuckerman. You have a big yard on a thoroughfare or on a highway or on
absolutely.
a street. You'll take that,
Absolutely.
won't you?
That's right, Tom. And anyone who wants to just contact me today, my personal cell is 394-4910, 394-4910. And let's just move forward, and I'd love any help or questions that people have. Just give me a call, or my personal email is Tuckerman with the letter R, tuckermanr@hotmail.com. And pretty soon we'll have a campaign email set up too, but using the personal email is just fine. We're a small state. We can talk to our officials and people who want to represent us, and I'm ready to do my part.
Absolutely. Well, a couple other questions here. So when we have a permanent fund issue, and it's not about how much is in it, but it's how to spend it or not, and it's the permanent fund dividend itself. With past administrations, there's been commitments to protect or elevate, and then either, like in a Walker's case, he didn't follow through and kind of breached his promises. And in other cases, the legislature has a different idea than the executive. You were one that's always said, make sure that PFD gets out there in fair share, but you weren't the governor. And so how does that and I support Governor Dunleavy, but how does that translate to a state Senate position when it comes to what you can do? One of 60, one of 20 state senators, one of 60 lawmakers. You're not the governor or light gov, so you can't do it all. But if you're in there, how will you play that on the PFD and what people get?
That's right. You can't overpromise. But the reality is, in the Senate today, in the state Senate, the vote was 10-10 not to fund the PFD under the current statute. And by electing me, that would make it 11-9. So that's one positive change that's possible. We need to follow the statute. The PFD is paid for by earnings from the permanent fund. It doesn't deprive the government of a penny. It doesn't threaten the fund. It was successfully followed for 30 years and until Governor Walker started playing around with it. And if we're going to do something different, it needs to pass the legislature. We need to change the law. But until that happens, we need to follow the statute. And I've been fighting this battle a long time. In fact, back in 99, when we had an advisory vote on protecting the dividend, I was a voluntary chairman of Save the Dividend Mat-Su. And it's been something in my heart for a long time. And this dividend, which is the royalty earning from our oil, needs to go to the owners of that oil, the citizens of Alaska, and I'm absolutely committed to it.
You're pro-life, and I know you're very much patriotic, more than most people I know. You're very pro-military and pro-veteran, and you're a guy that's, pro-business. You're a lot of pros. You're a good, solid Republican without the controversy. But the fact that you have roots, and I know you don't judge someone how long they've lived in Alaska, but in your case, you can speak for yourself. You've lived here decades, and you've hunted, you've fished, you've been out there. Do you think that matters? Does that connect with the Kenai Peninsula and the pioneers and the folks, new and old? I mean, there are people that have moved there recently as well. But is there an affinity to you because of that, because of your length of time here and what you've done in the state? You can kind of relate to the voters?
Well, I certainly can relate to Alaska, why we come to Alaska, why my family came, and whether we came before statehood or when I arrived in 1966, or whether you just arrived last month. If you look to Alaska and you want to enjoy Alaska and what it represents and the freedom and the access to our great recreation in Alaska, I'm there. I'm someone who's going to stand absolutely strong for that. It's a beautiful thing about our state. When I travel outside, there's so many people and so much development, and that's good for business. But Alaska's special, and people come to Alaska for a special reason, and I certainly want to help preserve and promote that. And of course, our natural resources here are one of the reasons we can all be here and have a thriving economy. And the federal government is a constant thorn in our side regarding our ability to develop our resources and provide good jobs and income for our families. And with my 14 grandchildren, I'm absolutely focused on making sure our economy booms and we have access to our resources. And at the same time, we preserve our ability to hunt, fish, hike, climb, and canoe and raft our rivers. And I think the ability to focus on all of that and to have been here for these decades makes me very aware of what's important to Alaskans.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well said, Tuckerman Babcock. He's running for state senate on the Kenai Peninsula, and we will have him back. The election cycle is a long time. Next time we get him back in the next couple months, he'll have everything up and running in the next couple days online, so you can follow him, issues, endorsements, all those things, donate to him. But in the meantime, we'll talk to him next time about the ranked choice voting and his thoughts, maybe in another month or two. Tuckerman, God bless you. Thank you for deciding here to serve. I know it's a big commitment, and good luck to you, okay?
Thank you very much, and God bless you, Tom.
Absolutely. God bless Tuckerman Babcock and the great state of Alaska. We're going to be back tomorrow. Charlie Kirk is next up. Folks, stay with us. Stay right here on KVNT, and God bless.